Recovery is stupendous.
Achievable.
Hope.
Freedom.
Empowering.
It's unique to everyone.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Getting a new lease on life.
Finding restoration after you fall down.
Recovery is having the freedom to enjoy life.
For me, it was finding a way to really love myself.
My recovery is possible in part because of my own sense of purpose.
Welcome to Montana's Peer Network. I'm Leah Wetzel, Montana's Peer Network Drop-In Center Coordinator. I'm very honored and privileged. We're here in Helena today for our MPN conference, and I grabbed some amazing individuals that just got done presenting, and we'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hi, thank you for the invite. It's been fantastic to be here and really be with other people that are in recovery and being able to share our experiences. But my name is April C., and I'm the Director of Outreach for Hope Rescue Mission.
I'm Daniel Woodward. I'm an outreach specialist at Temporary Safe Outdoor Space for Hope Rescue Mission. I also work with peers one-on-one.
Yeah, thank you, Leah, for the invite. It's really great to be a person in recovery wrapped around a bunch of other peers in recovery as well to get my cup filled.
Right.
My name is Jessica Colton, and I'm the Drop-In Center Coordinator with Hope Rescue Mission.
And Jessica and I got the chance to both our roads were already going. We were already on our journey then, but went through PS 101 training. So it's an honor to be able to see you and your journey and be able to watch and start to be a part of this drop-in center work. And so just listening to your presentation, hearing that evolving story of what you guys brought, will you let our listeners give us a little brief on what you presented today?
All right, I will try to do this without my notes. No. Really, we got to a place in our community that we, the same things that we were doing weren't working anymore. And it's like, how can we do things different? But we all bought into the bigger picture of relationship and how can we create relationships amongst each other, not working in silos, and really find a way, because we all serve the same people, but we had to throw our agendas aside. And so it took some time for that to actually come together and us get to a place where there wasn't anyone worried about their territory. And so once we all got to this place, I mean, it was hard. It sounds easy now that when I talk about it, but it was hard. You know, we all had to be committed to the change and what it looked like. But in working with them, what we found is the education piece. There's a lot of people that, are in college and they're social workers and they dive into that realm of it, but really not have the lived experience to understand how they're going to put things into action. So policies and procedures and foundations and, rules and codes and all the stuff that they use to build these things. I mean, it's great. It's a great foundation in place. But the problem what I seen was, how do they know what they actually need if they're not asking? So when I was asked to the table, that's exactly what my portion was, is the unity piece, but bringing that lived experience. And so with me being able to sit at the table and just share, this was my struggle. I was an addict for 25 years. I didn't want to be one, but the way I grew up was just different. I was 12 years old when I got offered meth, and I didn't know any better, but I knew I was in pain from something that I wasn't receiving. And, you never know what you're going to like or how your life's going to go. And then you do that one thing and it changes the direction of your path. Right. And that's something that they didn't get to hear at that level is instead of being what's wrong with you? What happened to you?
Yes.
What happened? You change it. Instead of how can I help you? How can I support you? Because help is temporary. I'm going to help you through this challenge and then you're on your own. But how can I support you and walk with you? And so they just really needed to see those things early on, and they started to see that this group that we were forming was starting to change the way we were putting systems into place. And the system to navigate is incredibly hard. You walk into a human resource council, and they are wonderful with information. That's what they do. 211, phenomenal information. But what we've seen, I seen at Hope Rescue Mission, the gap was where's the relational piece? When is someone going to be able to walk in with that card they've been handed a million times, go to these 8 different places and they just send you everywhere else. And really, those organizations never communicated. Just a resource list out here, go figure it out, so that they're out of your hair. So once it came into where we were, I just really seen that I'm going to sit down with them and I'm going to advocate for them. And it changed because they didn't have to make those calls. And the relationships that we were starting to build with like YWCA, Salvation Army, the Poverello, tons of nonprofits. Now there's a warm handoff. Like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to my friend that was going to help with the housing support part of it. And so that's how we started to create this change. And now the people that we're actually working with, it's not someone that we have supported and helped with a need. It's like, okay, we're going to have this. We're going to have this conference or this meeting with media or with our city leaders. Could you come in and share your story? Because it's not about us. It's about like, this is the person that you guys said yes to when you guys all agreed to come together. And that's one thing that has changed. It's not about us. It's about people that need help, and how can we do that with all different cultures, all different types of people, that you can sit at the table and there's nothing different amongst anyone else.
Right.
We have one thing in common. The common ground is we all are serving the same people. So how can we do it the best that we can?
That's beautiful. And so some of what you shared about your little bit of your own lived experience and how you ended up where you're at working. Would you like to share with our listeners a little bit about that?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, around like 10, I think, so I used to visit my mom. Jessica's actually my mom. And I used to visit on and off, like California and Montana, till like the age of 10, I believe, 10 or 12. And then I didn't know what happened at the time. It just felt like I was abandoned in a way just because I didn't understand the other side of it, if that makes sense. So I was just a little kid, like trying to understand. And we went like 12 years without talking or communicating, mainly my choice because it was hard. And now we're back together. I dealt with a lot of trauma with previous like stepmom, different traumas in my past. But I visited a couple times after 12 years of not talking, and it just felt more like home than where I was at. And which was weird, of course, because it was only a couple times visiting. I just felt lost, and moving up here was probably a better decision, and it led me in the right direction. And now I know who I am. And
I love you so much.
I got us all tearing up. And your voice is so powerful. And just sharing a little bit of my lived experience and situation with my kids. They were separated from me for 8 years. One went to the res, one went, stayed in Great Falls. Their dad went to federal prison and I went to state prison. And same thing, there were two, but they were like 2 and 3. And so, I always tell them, I say, you can talk to me, you can talk to me about it. You're allowed to, but we can't throw it in each other's face.
Yeah.
Because they're still hyphy teenagers. But your voice is so powerful because that's in all these organizations, recovery and behavioral health organizations, there's a lot of word about wanting to start a youth program or a youth board.
Mm-hmm.
And we need peer supporters that are your age, so kids that are in high school have somebody to look up to.
There's hope inside of it.
Yes.
They're the other side of what we hurt, and really just being able to see the other side and him be able to speak to that, it's just been an incredible experience, especially at our drop-in centers. Him, sharing, like, listening to someone say, well, I won't get my kids back, and I won't, you're just in this place of brokenness. And it's amazing. I watch them too out there, and I watch him bring life back to a community. And even though he's young and they want to resist the help, he also gets to say, hey, listen, I don't know what you walk through, but I'm the one that was left behind. I'm the one that was hurt. I was the one that, didn't want this relationship, but now look what can happen when everybody recovers.
Yeah.
The restoration piece that fits in. And so I love that I have this team and that he was brought here and he chose to stay, because there wasn't a question that I'm like, I will. And I told my bosses, like, if anything goes wrong, I 100% put my neck on the line, but I want to do this because this is what they need.
Yeah.
We need to see that in recovery.
Yes.
Like, what did we hurt? It's a reminder every day that I don't want to go back, because this is what I hurt, and I don't want to lose any more time.
Yep. And being the parent in it, and I'm a single mom too, it's not always easy to be on that receiving end, but for you to continue your healing and growth process and helping others. And Jessica, you have a huge purpose in life, and I'm really excited to get with you with this criminal justice work. And it takes a big person to be accountable for these things, and I really think that is what allows the healing within our youth, within our next generation. But you shared about a little bit about you and your son, and you shared some of success stories. Would you share a little bit about, what brought you to this line of work, and how has it played into your life, your family's life?
So I came from a very traumatic past myself. My dad was a heroin addict who eventually OD'd when I was 19. But I felt like I was born into addiction. My whole life was hustle, houselessness. I didn't know how to cope with anything because I didn't have any love and support from my family. So, and I swore I was never going to be that person to my kids. But of course, as a result, I didn't do things the same way they did, but I did it. And I always swore I'm never going to put a needle in my arm. I'm never going to do this like my dad. And I'm never going to abandon my kids. I don't want to carry on that hurt. But to cope with it, I did use substances and chose to look for love in the wrong places. I sought out men, women, it didn't matter what it was. I just wanted to fill that hole in my soul and wanted someone to love me. So as a result of that, I did hurt a lot of people, including my children. They didn't know when I was incarcerated that was what was going on. So they felt abandoned. In my heart, I felt like I was protecting them from the chaos I lived as a child. So I just disappeared. Because that was easier for me than facing becoming what my parents were. But so I spent 38 arrests, incarcerated. 32 of them were in a 5-year span because I couldn't deal with the hurt of my kids not talking to me, but I didn't see it as abandonment. I saw it as a protection mechanism, and a coping mechanism. And then my son came back in my life a couple years ago, and I was just astonished, like, that God could do that. And all I knew was I needed to stay sober one day at a time. I didn't get into peer support work right away. I chose to let God lead me where he wanted me. I knew I had a lot of healing to do before I could go out in the community and help anybody else. And so that's what I did. And it took 4 years of doing that before God put it on my heart that I needed to, that my time is here. I didn't know what that looked like. And I just kept choosing to walk and follow that leadership. And, it was a really tough road. But I love to serve others, especially those getting out of incarceration. I spent many years where my release date was coming up and I get released, and I showed up to a house with one backpack in a drug house because I didn't know where to go. That's all I knew for 27 years. So I showed up and I chose not to use that time and went out and got a job the next day while everybody's using it in the bedroom. But I had no support and nowhere to live. So I chose this career because I wanted to be that person I never had as a guide. Like, I was just thrown to the wolves. Okay, you got to pay all these courts, you got to do this, but you have nowhere to live and you have no employment to meet the needs and demands of the courts. And I just felt like I was in a vicious cycle that was never going to end. So I would continue to use because I'm like, okay, I'll just wait for the next warrant. Or I'll just wait till they pick me up again because the system wasn't doing me justice.
Right.
The system was not going to set me up. They were setting me up for failure, and that's how they made me feel. The POs just waiting for that one opportunity for me to give a dirty UA, and I was going back. So I felt hopeless in many areas of my life. And, I just want to be a part of the solution and not the problem. And that's why I love advocating for the criminal justice piece. I want to help folks before they get released to be able to have some support, some resources, or at least just have a peer support to walk alongside them and know that, hey, I have someone I can call the minute I get out these doors that can walk me along. There's a similar journey and be able to take me through the process of what it took to get to that place of sustained recovery.
That's beautiful, Jessica. And our listeners need to hear that. They need to hear how, all these different pieces of the system, whether it's being incarcerated and coming out, the lack of reentry and the lack of collaboration and partnerships, and, federally, universally, we're trying to change that, all the fundings, collaboration, partnerships stuff. And so it's kind of starting to trickle down, and so this is hope. This is hope for our listeners. This is hope for others in recovery, and even those that haven't found recovery yet. Hearing these pieces, because it doesn't matter your color, your background, or what. We've all felt that hurt, that trauma, and you guys are a voice, multiple voices of healing and hope. Hope Rescue Mission listeners, how can our listeners get a hold of you guys if they're needing services or support?
Well, you can get a hold of us. My blah blah. That's always going to be me, dude. I can't help it. But April C, I'm the director of outreach, and you can get a hold of me at my direct line. It is 406-203-1043, or at outreach at hopemontana.org, and Montana spelled all the way out. I have to say that every time. So those are the ways to get a hold of me to find out what all programs we have underneath outreach. We have several different ministries. We got 2 drop-in centers. Actually, our homeless street outreach team, and we got a ministry called His Body at Work. So we're actually working with actual churches and neighborhoods to really reintegrate those that were getting into housing. What does it look like on the other side? So we're actually getting the neighbors changing perspectives and things of that sort. And so that's something new that I'm working on. But yeah, if you have any questions or want to get involved, please reach out.
And they're also an ally partner of Montana's Peer Network.
Yeah, we are.
And so if you have any questions, always outreach to us. Thank you for listening today. And if you're interested in joining us for our podcast, get a hold of me at leah@mtpeernetwork.org. And you guys have a beautiful week. Thanks.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works, recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery works and recovery is possible.
Recovery is possible.